Welcome to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, pop and lock and salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map and stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
This one's going to be pretty
Welcome
quick.
to the
So you know how trains, whenever you want to go past the railroad tracks,
To the Mashup.
there's always a train there. And then it'll stop when it's almost over and then go back and then go forward and then go back again and then finally roll just barely out of the way and then you can get past just in time for the next train gridlock. Crazy idea. Hear me out. You know those big arms that come down? What if? Just what if we turn them 90 degrees during like rush hour and peak traffic times and the arms came down and stopped the trains instead of the people?
Mashup 145.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're saying the arms should stop trains, not the people. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
So you want to stop key infrastructure from moving around so people can move?
As opposed to our key infrastructure?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that one, too. Interesting take this morning. Mashup 145. Holy crap, are we coming in
You don't
hot
have
today?
to agree with me. You're entitled to be wrong. I'm fine with that.
Mashup 145. Well, hello everyone. Thanks for being here with us today. And I tell you what, I am discombobulated. Two's had so many flipping things in the sheet today. I'm like, I was cursing his name as I'm getting ready for the show. And then
That makes me
one of our
happy.
guests who we're hopefully going to get to, hopefully he shows up. He's canceled. He's come back. He's canceled. He's come back. I'm like, I can't keep it straight today. I'm trying
He's
to
basically the
juggle.
Brett Favre of the mashup. At this point.
Holy macana. Like I tell you, we are in one this morning. Mashup 145. How's everybody doing? How's Two's doing this week?
Two's kind of rushed this morning, believe it or not, which probably compounded your irritation, which I'm fine with. How's Sean?
I feel like he's just doing it, folks, to see, like how much of a rise you can get out of Sean. Okay. If you're watching, you're tuning in right now. The first thing we're going to talk about, he's got Airborne Friday. Well, happy Airborne Friday to all the military boys. Jamie Sinclair out there. Salute to you. If you're watching this, make sure to like, share, wave a rooster flag. There you go. If you're on X, give us a retweet. If you're, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, etc., comment, share, get it out past the noise. We all know we're stuck in some echo chambers. Congratulations to Solix, Knox, and Glenn Guibert. They are the winners of the hat.
The hat.
The hat.
You guys won hats, which is funny because at least one of you doesn't live in Alberta, so I find that to be incredibly amusing. But Solix Knox, we're not exactly sure who you are, so can you reach out to us so that we can send you the hat?
Yes, we're like, who are these people? But we know who Glenn is. Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
Appreciate you all being here.
And happy birthday to my buddy Disco.
Who the heck is Disco?
He's my buddy. I thought I just said that.
All right. Mashup 145 coming in hot. We got our first guest in the background. Oh, Coots 6.5. Do you have a story on this?
I got a few.
Oh, my goodness.
Police charge person after finding a chop shop in Chatsworth, $2.3 million worth of stolen large commercial vehicles out on bail. CBSA seized 50 million of meth concealed in suitcases inside tractor trailer. Passport surrendered to RCMP. Curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and has to wear an ankle bracelet. And then a BC man who sexually abused a 12 and 14-year-old girl and filmed his abuse of the younger victim has been sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. And after time served, will have just another year behind bars. And the Coots guys are in jail for 6.5 years.
Look at that haircut. Is that a haircut? What is that? What am I looking? Anyways,
it's a lack of a cut.
Lack of a cut. That's right. All right. Well,
okay.
Okay. Let's get to our first guest. We got political columnist for the Toronto Sun, Brian Lilley, hopping in with us today. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I landed 12 hours ago back from my trip to Washington, D.C. So you're getting ball cap and unshaven Belil today.
I'm loving every minute of it, Brian. Been a fan
and my
for
voice
a
is a little rough because I
been a
landed
fan
in
for a
D.C.
long
and caught a
time.
cold. Oh, there's the old book.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, let's get into it. Tell us about DC. Let's hear all the latest that your trip. I don't know.
So
brought up.
I was basically following Ontario Premier Doug Ford. We're in the middle of a provincial election right now. And to be honest, when we landed Tuesday morning, headed into an event with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I was going into it thinking, oh, wow, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, this is the world's biggest business lobby group. This is great. And then I was like, ooh, see a lot of people I recognize. I see a lot of Canadians. Turns out it's about 2/3 Canadians, 1/3 Americans, and the Americans that were there were already on side with us. And I thought, ooh, is this going to be a wasted trip? But then you see the rest of Ford's itinerary. And then I start talking to the other teams, for premiers like Danielle Smith in Alberta, Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, Premier Legault in Quebec. They all had their own meetings where they met with members of the House of Representatives or members of Congress who were key to their districts. So for example, Danielle Smith met with a bunch of people in the energy sector. In fact, she met with Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, my understanding. You had Doug Ford meeting with a member of the House of Representatives who's chair of the Republican caucus in the House, who also represents an area just outside Detroit that has a lot of auto parts makers and auto parts workers. So for him, that's really important. I talked to Scott Moe. Premier Moe told me that he met with people focused on the energy industry from places like Pennsylvania, but he also met with Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley. I mean, is there a bigger name in the Senate for Republicans than Chuck Grassley? I mean, the guy's been around since Jesus was in short pants. And he looks as old as that.
That's a lot of people in U.S. Congress, though, to be fair.
Yeah. I love the ad that the Trump guys put out in the middle of the campaign about Biden care before Biden had resigned. And they're like showing a family trying to tell their loved one, like, it's time for you to go into assisted living. We're sending you to the U.S. Senate. That was hilarious because of how bad it is. But, each premier had people that they met with that were key to their respective industries because each province is different. And so I started out, thinking, okay, this is going to be good. Got there, thought, ooh, this isn't so good. And then watched the meetings happen and said, no, this is all right. And then, of course, we can talk about the whole issue of how hunting played a role in them getting a meeting at the White House that some people are stupidly dismissing as a nothing burger. And I can explain why it's not.
Well, it seems to me that the fact that we've disconnected ourselves from that entire ecosystem for so long that we've got to pay almost $100,000 just to get the meetings lined up kind of lends itself credence to the fact that we haven't been a serious country for a long time. Am I off base on that?
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. Look, there's a story out in CBC French in Radio Canada today talking about how diplomats at the embassy are upset that the premiers went into that meeting at the White House, that they should have been briefed properly first, that they should have talked to them. No. You know who should have set that meeting up at the White House? The embassy. We pay an ambassador to do this. And look, I hear great things about Ambassador Hellman, but the fact is she couldn't set that meeting up for them. Stephen Taylor, who you may know, he's a conservative consultant.
I met him a few months ago.
Yeah, so I've been friends with Stephen for a long time. We've been down to CPAC together, which, by the way, is happening next weekend. And the premier should be at that. Some of them are going back down for the National Governors Conference. They should stick around and go to CPAC. That's the Conservative Political Action Conference. Stephen pointed out, he said, any of us that have been to CPAC in the last while have more connections to the Trump movement and where Republicans are thinking now than the current Trudeau government. I haven't been to CPAC since 2014, but I made connections there. I was there for a few times, but the last time was 2014. That's how I ended up sitting down with Steve Bannon for 20 minutes while I was down in Washington, because of that connection. You need to be able to do this. And you've got all these Canadians, especially in the establishment media, which, look, the Toronto Sun is never the establishment media. We're a fart in the elevator. No, they don't want us around. And they're
We cover
just
your guys'
horrified.
stuff every week, though.
Sorry?
Every week there's a few articles from the Toronto Sun that we cover, and a couple from the Toronto Star that we make fun of.
Well, thank you for that. But look, these guys, they think that talking to Republicans is treasonous. Well, they're in power right now, and they have an awful lot of sway over how the Americans treat our economy. So do you want our economy to do well, or do you want it to tank? I've read people who are much more establishment than me saying, oh, we should just go to war with the Americans and stop exporting everything. Okay, that tells me you're in the laptop class, that you and no one you know works in a factory, works in the patch, works in ag, has any clue about what we actually do as a country and what we export. And when you go down to Washington, you talk to people, one of the number one issues is ag. It's all agriculture. It's agriculture, it's energy, it's, are you taking the border seriously? They worry about our agricultural imports. Well, for them, they're imports, and they worry about their agricultural exports to us. Oh, for a lot of people in the Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa triangle, they have no connection to agriculture. They have no connection to natural resource extraction. They have no clue about any of this. They kind of understand the auto sector, which is massive. I mean, not compared to oil, but it's massive. And so they make these bizarre statements and assertions. And then you actually go and talk to people who are involved in the discussions that matter. And they're like, yeah, well, we're worried about cheese. We're worried about poultry. We're worried about various things. And you're like, none of this is talked about in Canada.
So why do you think you mentioned in there that, some people are making the meeting at the White House to be a nothing burger? Why do you think it's not?
Because I know what a deputy chief of staff is. So look, the business guys got a better meeting. I'll admit that. So Goldie Hyder from the Business Council of Canada took down a bunch of CEOs from across the country. Some were involved in the nuclear energy sector, some were involved in potash, some were involved in manufacturing. I mean, just let me pause there for a second. They took down a CEO from potash. Most Canadians couldn't tell you what potash is. It's dug out of the ground in Saskatchewan, and it is the key ingredient for fertilizer. This is a major export to the United States. So they got the better meeting. They got Kevin Haslett, who is one of Trump's top trade advisors, and a guy who knows Canada well. He fishes in Canada every summer. He's been coming to Canada for years. He did an interview on CNBC a little while ago where he talked about how bad the fentanyl crisis is in Canada, because they take fentanyl very seriously. And this was the message that every person from the Canadian delegation got. Don't downplay fentanyl. It's big. But, Kevin Haslett was on CNBC saying, yeah, I walked out of my hotel in Edmonton and I'm just seeing people walking around like zombies. So, yeah, they got the meeting with these guys. But a deputy chief of staff in charge of legislation and policy is not nothing. Right behind Susie Wiles, that's who that person is. So it goes Donald Trump, Susie Wiles, James Blair. That's who they met with. And Sergio Gore. So Sergio Gore, you might just look at his name or his title and say, oh, he's in charge of White House personnel. Well, who cares? He's the HR guy at the White House. No, this guy is pure MAGA. He is tight with Trump. He is tight with Don Jr. These are people that matter. And if you don't understand Trump world, then you don't understand that. And too many of my colleagues don't even try to understand Trump world. And when I try and explain Trump world to Canadians in my columns and videos, I get crapped all over and saying, you're a traitor to Canada. Well, no, like you got to understand what your trading partner wants if you want to get a good deal. And at the end of the day, what do we all want? We want a good deal. Most Canadians don't want to become the 51st state. So, okay, well, what are the other alternatives? Find a good deal. And I'm willing to look at what they want, what are the trade irritants, why are they doing this, and then say, okay, how do we react? How do we come back at them with, all right, you're annoyed at us with this. How about we rearrange it this way? Like, it's going to vary depending on the issue, whether it's dairy or it's auto parts or what have you. But, we need to understand them in order to be able to respond properly.
Yeah, I think out here in the West that we're not afraid of the Trump crowd. We're certainly not opposed to a lot of their views. I'm curious, like with the way the polls have been going, you see the leadership race of the Liberals here in full swing. Carney seems to be I guess I'm just curious, you being on the other side of the country, Brian, what your thoughts on the Liberal leadership race is and Carney in particular, because it seems to me the outsider is looking to be the next Prime Minister of Canada.
Well, he's not an outsider.
I know
he's not an outsider. He never has been. And yeah, I'm from Eastern Canada. Well, Central Canada, really. Like, I'm in Toronto. I'm sitting on, about 2 kilometers from Lake Ontario. This is the middle of the country, really. Well, I guess Winnipeg technically is, but Central Canadian. But I got a lot of ties to Western Canada. It was on Sun News for years, and part of our, why we existed was to bring back the old Reform Party slogan, "The West wants in," and we had a whole Western bureau and Western news director, and I've got so many ties with family to Western Canada, and so I actually get you guys. I think, anyway. I hope I do. But the Carney thing. If I can talk about polls for just a minute, we've got very divergent polls. You've got Leger, and I want to be clear, because every time I talk about a poll, you see the reaction from people, and if they like the result of the poll, then the poll's great. And if they don't like the result of the poll, then the pollster is obviously in the bag for the other guy. I'm only going to talk about 2 polls right now, Leger and Abacus, and they're 2 very well-respected pollsters, both of whom I've worked with. Neither one of them is in the bag for anyone, okay? But they have very divergent results. Leger has Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives tied with the Liberals if Mark Carney's leading them. Abacus has the Conservatives still with, I think, about a 15-point lead if Mark Carney is leading them. Fact is, right now we're in a moment of flux. We don't know what's happening. Trudeau's gone. Trudeau was the boil on the ass of the Liberal Party, and they lanced it. So he's gone. That's obviously going to change things for a good number of people, because they were just fed up with Trudeau. Mark Carney isn't that well known. I mean, to people obsessed with politics like we are, he's well known. But for the average Canadian, have you heard of him? Maybe. So the idea that he's taking them suddenly to tied with the Conservatives, I have trouble with. What you need to look for in polls is a trend. Now, I know there's been the Ecos polls and others. Frank Graves could tell me the time of day as the 2 of us were looking at the same clock, and I wouldn't believe him. So I'm going to discount Ecos, and there's many reasons for that. And Frank can sue me if he wants. I've got the receipts because he makes them all public. There's a reason I don't trust him. But Leger and Abacus being so divergent is very strange. So what we have to sit down and wait for is, where is the trend going? Is the trend going in the Leger way, or is it staying in the Abacus way? And we don't know. But Mark Carney looks like he's got the Liberal leadership wrapped up. I don't think Chrystia Freeland has a hope in hell of doing this. Karina Hu, and then you've got all the rest of them. So, they're going to go through their exercise that includes 400,000 people that may include a lot of Chinese foreign national students who happen to register, just like in the Don Valley North candidate race several years ago. Or maybe it'll be a bunch of conservatives who sweep Ruby Dalla to be the next PM with Ruby Mania. Who knows? It's such a bizarre situation that we're going through. But we don't actually know where the polls are at right now because there's no trend line. And as I said, you've got to discount some of these other polls that I have real questions about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting to see such a huge flux, and I could see some arguments either way. Like, I feel like Poilievre has probably brought in somebody new in comms over the past few weeks. It seems like he's kind of changed his tone a little bit and gone more with what he thinks polls in Ontario are telling him was popular, rather than kind of doing what he's done before, which is just, let's throw some common sense at this. And so, I could see that resonating less well, but at the same time, to see, like you said, just somebody who's totally unknown, well, not totally unknown, but virtually unknown, trying to pretend like he's a man of the people and just don't worry about the last
$2,000 running shoes.
Well, you know what? We're going to get to that. I saw an interesting fact check. Somebody fact checked it, and they were like, those aren't $2,000 running shoes. Here's the actual shoe, and it's only $1,000.
But did you see?
Only 1,000.
But
yeah.
Did you see the fact check got fact checked 3 more times, saying that was in fact a $2,000 shoe? Anyways, I digress. Brian.
Okay. So what's the old Winston Churchill line? We've established what you are, ma'am. Now we're just haggling.
Yes,
correct. Brian, we appreciate you hopping on and giving us some time today.
Thanks. Sorry I missed it. I was really happy to have you regardless.
Good chatting with you guys.
Thanks, Brian. Well. Now, we're gonna hop right to our next guest. This is the way the morning's going. Mashup 145. Like first, we're gonna bring him in. Leighton Gray. Hey, host of the Gray Matter podcast, of course, lawyer as well. Leighton, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's great to be on the Mashup. It's my first time on this program.
I gotta laugh because I was harping on you at the start of the show. I'm like, between Leighton saying he's coming, he's not coming, Two's giving me this laundry list of things to do, then disappearing while we have Brian Lilley on. I'm like, what is going on today? Mashup 145 is, we are off the rails on both sides of the coaster here. With you, we're talking the new border czar. What can you? Well, I don't know. Tell us about this.
Well, I recently wrote a piece on Dr. Thomas Sowell, who you might know is a very famous, maybe the best known, apart from Jordan Peterson, the best known public intellectual. He's this 95-year-old black man from Harvard who's off the charts brilliant. He's written more books after the age of 80 than most people have read in their lifetimes. Anyway,
he had a clip of him on Free Trade coming up later today.
Great. Well, that's a great tie-in. Yeah, so he has a couple of quotes that apply to our new border czar. Firstly, he says that every disaster throughout history, there's always seems to be a man from Harvard in the middle of it. The second one is, it is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. So talking about our new border czar, he's a man from Bonnyville. He's from a wealthy generational French-Canadian family that has deep ties to the Liberal Party. He has relatives who have been on the Alberta Court of Appeal. One of his relatives, actually, I practiced law with early in my career. He's a judge now. So he basically, he went to law school at University of Alberta, which is my alma mater. But, he's like a lot of the people that end up being appointed by Justin Trudeau to high office. He washes out of the legal profession and was never really a lawyer, goes into public service, and has been basically rising through the ranks of the RCMP bureaucratically. Took some time off to take a publicly funded scholarship to go to Harvard, and then went right back into public service where he's been. So if you look at his X page, it's basically as woke as can be. He's got his emblem of every child matters, calling Ottawa home. He's been on the platform since 2017, and he has 334 followers. So basically what you're getting with Brasso is the same thing you're getting with every Trudeau high appointment, even the most revolting ones. I don't know if you heard about this recently, guys, but our former transport minister, I call him Abracadabra, he's now going to be our ambassador to Syria, if you can believe it. After he screwed up the minister of transport and prevented every Canadian from getting on a ship, a plane, or a train in this country. Anyway, what you have with Brasso is more of what the Liberals do, which is appoint somebody who is a mediocre person with deep ties to the Liberal Party, who's beholden only to Justin Trudeau and answerable to the Liberal Party. And what this really represents is the fact that the Liberals are not at all committed to doing anything about the border. In fact, having open borders is a huge part of who they are, because they are a globalist party. They are a representation of globalism in Canada, which is what we're living through right now. All the destruction that we're living through and chaos is caused by open borders. They're very committed to that. Of course, this government has deep ties to China, and when you trace the fentanyl trade, it always goes back to China. So I'll just leave it there. With Mr. Brasso, again, very, very typical appointment. He's not going to do a blessed thing about the border, and it's not meant to. And you know that the Liberals are not committed to doing anything about the border because of all their other messaging. We've got Mark Carney, who says he's going to declare an economic emergency, and we know how the Liberals manage emergencies. And we have people like Mr. Forge threatening to shut the lights off in Florida, and Trudeau talking about about retaliatory tariffs, which are only going to land on American and especially Canadian consumers. So the language of trade war flies in the face of doing something about the border. And then the deeper problem, and here I disagree with Mr. Lilley, although I found his commentary very interesting. I don't agree with Mr. Lilley. I don't think that Donald Trump is using tariffs as a means to get a better deal for America. I think that he's very, very serious about annexing Canada. And the reason why is because Canada is no longer a free and democratic country. And I can prove it because there's things I could say on this platform right now, Sean, that would get this thing banned. And you know what those things are. I'm not going to say them. That's proof that we don't live in a free country anymore. Canada's real choice.
Hey, Leighton. I double dare you.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Okay. Vaccines are not safe. Vaccines are not safe
to stay on an airplane.
There we go. Yep, see you later, YouTube. It was nice knowing you for another week.
But really, I'll just finish off with this and then throw it back to you guys. Canada's real choice. I mean, there's many people who are just living in the matrix. But Canada's real choice is, do we want to continue to be a CCP client state? Or do we want to be emancipated by America? Donald Trump understands what Canada is. That's why he's talking about 51st state. He knows what Canada really is. And he talked about it going back to February of 2022 during the Freedom Convoy. He said he was going to emancipate Canada from authoritarian government. And that's what he's about. I think he's dead serious about making Canada part of the United States. He said so recently in a Super Bowl interview with Brett Baer. You guys probably saw that. There's nothing about what he's doing that convinces me that this is just some sort of trade war negotiation. And I think that he's speaking past Canadian politicians. He's making them irrelevant. Everything he's saying to Canadian politicians, he's really saying to China. He's using Trudeau as a microphone for his message to the CCP. And I think it's working. I think the reason why it's working is how nervous China is about it, because China, I think, is controlling all of Canada's responses, including the recent appointment of our quote unquote border czar.
When you say you can see how nervous China is, what do you mean by that?
Well, ask yourself this question: who would benefit most from a trade war between the United States and Canada? The answer is pretty obvious. Who would benefit the least from Canada actually doing something to fix our border? Again, the question answers itself. China stands to gain. But, we as Canadians, we can't keep blaming politicians. Canadians and Americans are culpable here because we fell in love with and we got addicted by cheap Chinese stuff. And a big problem, like you guys know this, people are talking, well, let's boycott America and let's just buy Canadian. Well, you can't buy Canadian because we don't make stuff anymore. We don't make stuff anymore because everybody got hooked. Listen, I bought on Temu, okay, hand to heart. I'm guilty. Okay. People buy on Amazon. People won't want to look at labels and say, don't buy USA. Well, why don't you just look at don't buy from China? I mean, they are the evil empire that's threatening us, not the United States. And I think a lot of the propaganda, the anti-US propaganda, is being driven again by the CCP.
I think it's a lot of insecurity too, personally. I mean, you look at all these people that, 3 years ago to this day, the Canadian flag was a symbol of white supremacy. And now they're all touting it. And they're saying, oh, look at us. Oh, we're proud to be Canadian. And they suck at it because when you talk to them, they're just, this is all newfound stuff. These newly minted patriots that are hoisting up their patriotism that's so new it's still covered in afterbirth. And they're trying to tell us how we're supposed to think and how we're supposed to believe. And when you talk to our people, you say, well, who are you? What they'll say that, they'll tell you about their family or their community or their region or maybe what they do to put food on their family's table. But, you ask these guys, they say, I'm not fucking American. And if you did that with any other country, it would be racist as hell. Like
Right.
if you just said, tell me about yourself, Sean, and you said, well, I'm not Mexican. Be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hang up a second here, right? But they're trying this on for the first time. And because of that, they suck at it. And the thing about it is that it's not the patriotism that they're completely unfamiliar with. It's the being proud of something. These are people who, their communities, their families, their region, their economies, their jobs, their accomplishments, none of them are anything that they could ever be proud of. And so they're just trying this out for the first time. And at the same time, they're just following the laser pointer around like a cat coughing up fur balls. They suck at this.
Yeah.
Like,
This
it's
is a
got to
good
be
point.
so
Yeah.
exhausting to always be chasing the new thing. And especially when it's something so unfamiliar to that entire type of person.
And the people that you're talking about, most of them populate the political class. The political class has the most to lose from Canada becoming in some way part of the United States or closer to the United States. Most Canadians, I think, that when you sort of weigh the pros and cons, stand to benefit. And so this whole concept of un-Americanism shows that I think two things. Number one, Donald Trump and his administration understand keenly that if we're not already in a Cold War with China, we're entering one, and he means to win it. And secondly, that we are on the wrong side of that Cold War right now. If we are in opposition to United States and MAGA being, in my opinion, a made in America response to globalism, that is against everything that, let's say, Mr. Trudeau stands for. By the way, I don't agree with Brian Lilley that Justin Trudeau is gone. He's still exercising all the powers for prime minister.
He's still sitting there.
He is a grizzly bear shot in the ass wandering through the woods. He is more dangerous now than he ever was. And he said so. He said he's going to be ruthless. Did you guys catch that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that this whole idea of anti-Americanism, to finish off your thought, is actually that's an expression of Chinese propaganda, CCP propaganda, because they're against everything American. So Canadians who line up against America are really aligning themselves with the CCP. That's the dichotomy that's the way the world is carved up right now. When I was a kid, it was us and the USSR, which made watching international hockey really exciting. But today it's China. I wish they had a hockey team so that Crosby, McKinnon, and those guys could go kick their asses. That would be great.
I'm glad you brought up hockey. May I switch the conversation and go a complete 180 and go the opposite direction? Is that all right? But I guess it's my show. What the hell?
Sure.
Hey,
You want to talk
Tooz,
about
you
McCheeses.
you
You wanna talk about
literally
McCheeses.
keep hopping in and out of this conversation. Anyway,
Yeah, I switched. I'm tethering on my phone now. I don't know what's going on with the internet at the house, but I'm tethering off my phone right now.
Actually, the first thing I wanted to ask Leighton about, and your connections to the AJHL was I didn't realize this. So we just had Teague McAllister, and I want to make sure I get this correct because he, mid-season, and I've never seen this before, or certainly in my career, you couldn't just leave a team and get no compensation. You've mentioned this to me, and it just happened to the Lloydminster Bobcats. So the Bulldogs are excited to announce the addition of 2005 born forward Teague McAllister, who's originally from Kitscoty, so just outside of town. He was a captain for Team Canada West in the World Junior A Challenge. He went to BC, and I'm like, and there was no compensation given. Can you explain this to me from an AJHL team owner's perspective?
So the BCHL left Hockey Canada a couple of years ago, and they are basically a rogue league, and so they can do whatever they want. So we lost a lot of our top players to the BCHL. But they've found that the grass isn't necessarily greener because the BCHL imports a lot of kids from America and from Europe. And so, things don't always go well when the kids go to the BCHL. And so many of them have come back. So there really is, it's basically a Wild West in dealing with the BCHL. There are really no restrictions on adding them to your roster.
So at any point, sorry to interrupt. So at any point they can walk on your team and say, hey, we won't like your top scorer. You should come play for us. And there's no competition. Talk to the coaches, the manager, nothing.
Yeah.
And then the kid doesn't have to get a release or nothing?
No. And it works the other way. I mean, we lost a lot of our top kids to the BCHL because they offer money and all kinds of things. And there's a perception out there that BCHL is a better league, although that hasn't been proven on the ice. So I'm not convinced. But, the whole structure of junior hockey is really going to be changed radically by the NCAA decision because there aren't going to be as many U.S. scholarships coming out of leagues like the AJHL anymore because, of course, the NCAA is going to be able to take kids from the Western Hockey League and the Ontario League and Quebec Major Junior. So that's going to rewrite the whole story. I think there still will be scholarships.
When does that happen, Leighton? When will Dub kids be able to go to the NCAA?
Yeah, it'll happen next year. Well, actually, it may be even sooner. Many of the kids who have gotten Div 1 NCAA scholarships are probably going to be demoted to Div 2 or Div 3 or something like that because there's going to be a smorgasbord, I think, at the end of the year.
I can tell that Tooz is just squirming. Everybody who's probably watching right there, I'm like, what are these two gibber? I'm like, I've been waiting for a long time to squeeze in just a little smidge of hockey. And Connor McDavid suiting up in a Canada team. Ooh, man, alive.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have much to be happy about being a Flames fan? But regardless, what do you boys think? I know, folks. Nobody wants to hear about Team Canada. It was pretty cool. And they get a power play off the hop. McDavid to Crosby to McKinnon. Just quickly, thoughts on that?
I just saw a couple real quick clips of it. And for some reason the camera was focused on that Oilers dude. But I did watch a bunch of the Finland game last night with the States, and it was embarrassing. Your old countryman, Sean, they got a clinic put on him by your other old countryman.
No.
Oh, sure. Leighton, your thoughts on
well,
the
first of
Nations
all,
Cup?
I think it's just a pity that we don't have Russia in there. It just doesn't feel right not having Russia in an international competition, just because the rivalries that are there between Canada and U.S. and Russia, Finland. That's just a pity. First of all, it is wonderful to see all these players on the ice together. I saw Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar come into Edmonton right before the All-Star break, and I watched Nathan McKinnon drop 4 points on the Oilers, and I thought he was just dominant. And then Cale Makar, probably the most exciting offensive defenseman since Paul Coffey. But if Nathan McKinnon is not the most dominant player in the NHL right now, you'd have to really convince me. I love Connor. I think he's terrific. Obviously, he got the one assist, but he was probably the most noticeable player in that game. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time until he explodes offensively. I think we're going to see his best hockey probably against the Americans because, of course, he loves that Jack Eichel matchup. But yeah, it is very exciting to see all these players playing together. And it's interesting to see some of the players who are lesser known take on sort of roles that maybe are not the same as they would be on their regular teams. I'm old enough to remember when Mario Lemieux had to play right wing because he was playing with Wayne Gretzky, and he was able to do that extremely well. He got 12 goals in 7 games in the 87
What did you just put? I was saying to the brothers this morning, wouldn't you just I'm like, why don't they just put Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid on a line and just see what
not enough. You played hockey. You know there's not enough pucks.
I don't know. I just like to try it out. I just like to try it out.
There's only one puck. And you know, you have to decide. Well, and when you know this, Sean, because you play with really good offensive players, they just want the puck all.
They want
the
puck. Yes, they do.
And you have to. I mean, like the guys that I played with who are really good scorers, they would just tell me, "Look, Leighton, even when I'm covered, just be." And they're like vacuum cleaners, right? They could just get the puck anywhere near them. They're like hoovers. They just suck it up. But the problem is there's only one puck out there. And so you got to make sure, like when Mario and Gretzky played together, they figured it out. They said, okay, Mario, you're the shooter. I'm the passer. Right. And of course they were so incredibly talented. They can do that. And I'm sure these guys could too.
These guys could do that too.
Yeah.
I look at
those
those
they absolutely could. Like you look at, Fleury was playing on the wings for Team Canada in 2012, right?
Yeah, he was terrific. He was terrific.
You got to get
international competition. Yeah,
I don't know.
He should be in the Hall of Fame for his international hockey.
Fleury wasn't 2012. 2010 was
2000,
Vancouver.
2002,
so
right.
2002 in Salt Lake.
That's what.
But you know, he's won the gold medal in the World Championships, at the World Hockey Championships, at the Olympics, and in the Canada Cup. How many players can you say that about who are not in the Hockey Hall of Fame? The answer is there's only one. It's only Theo Fleury.
He's a little outspoken.
And a Stanley Cup champion, and a 50-goal scorer.
I have been waiting 145 mashups to have just a little bit of talk about hockey. Oh my goodness, folks!
Your whole show used to be
not what
hockey.
the show is. That's not what the show is. You want to talk Riders? Let's talk Riders.
I might just end the show prematurely, and we don't have to get into all the stupidity of all the headlines and all the garbage.
Sean, you say that exact line far too often.
I do. But you know, this is stupidity. We're going to talk about Carney and the moron, and oh my God. Anyways, we can bring it back to wherever you want to. Leighton, if you got to hop off,
that's fine.
You've just made my week. We talked a little AJHL. We talked a little bit about the Four Nations Cup, and I'm like, folks, this is a throwback to like circa episode 150 on the podcast, and I'm coming up on 800, so you can get a feel.
I was all excited to talk about Bonnyville, and then the internet kicked me out. I spent a lot of years in Bonnyville, so I know the kind of people that are around there.
I guess when you first put that out on Twitter, I sent a screenshot of it to Twos because I'm like, this is insane. How is it the Border Czar is going to come from Bonnyville? Like,
I mean, if anybody knows about drugs, it's going to be somebody from Bonnyville.
Ouch.
He's a subject matter expert.
Yep. Wow. Well, I mean, he's a very well educated guy, but unfortunately, Thomas Sowell described him perfectly. He's not there to actually do something. I mean, if Trudeau were serious about getting a border czar, he would have chosen somebody independent. This is the equivalent of, if Donald Trump chose Christopher Wray, the former disgraced FBI director, as their border czar. He's just this guy's just going to perpetuate the problem, look like he's doing something, but in the end, we're going to get the same old. This is what the Liberals do.
I appreciate Kevin's comment. We came for the stupid stuff. Yes, I realize you all came for the stupid stuff. I guess before we let you out of here, Leighton, just with Twos maybe has a couple thoughts, but I was just curious. When you're watching everything going on with the United States, Canada, and the Liberal Party, it looks like, like maybe somebody else gets elected than Carney. I'm like, I laugh at that. Carney's getting
Yeah,
elected.
he
We
is.
all
Oh,
know it's a
absolutely.
foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
question to you is, so Carney gets elected. Is there any chance, or no, I guess, like, where do you think the election is going to be? Are we going to get the April election like everybody kind of April, May? Or do you see this stretching out till October because he's going to go have a conversation with Singh and find a way to just, nope, we're not going to rush this? Or, or the extreme one where you're like, he calls in an emergency and all of a sudden we have a September 2026. Do you
It's
see?
the latter. Yeah, he's told us. He told us what he's going to do. He's going to become the prime minister. He's going to declare an economic emergency, and we're going to have another election like we had in 21, where there's going to be very severe restrictions on our liberty, particularly in terms of buying things from the United States, traveling to and from the United States, and an emergency environment. That's the best environment in which the Liberals will cheat, and they will cheat. We know they've cheated. They didn't win the last two national elections without the help of China and other types of cheating, and they will cheat again to win. So I think we will get an early election, but it'll be using the formula as closely as possible that they used in 2021. And really, Carney doesn't have to win. He only has to get a minority government, because we all know what Mr. Singh is going to do.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Leighton, twos, fire away if you got.
Oh, I was just going to say, he's going to, it's this, you see this bump, right? Even 2015, nobody even knew who Rachel Notley was until the debate. And then they're like, oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And she had this brief momentary surge in popularity. And if that election had been a month or two later, she wouldn't have won at all. And so you get this, oh, there's a new leader in the forefront. This person's interesting. And they see a popularity bump, and that's their only hope of retaining any sort of power. And so basically I would guess that as soon as, because the other thing is that they don't want to be the guys who get voted down in Parliament, because it's all about the egos. So they're gonna pull a Chrystia Freeland, and when Parliament finally gets back to actually sitting, the first thing they're gonna do is say, "You can't fire us. We quit.
Yeah,
let's have an election."
Yeah, I think if Mr. Poilievre wants to win, he's got to accept Donald Trump's help, because Liberals again are going to get a lot of help from outside the country. The Democrats have helped the Liberals a lot.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. So I think that's Poilievre's best chance to win. I think he's figured that out with some of his recent statements. Although what he just said the other day about Russia, is really not helping him, where he says Russia should not be part of the G7. I mean, this support for the Ukraine war by Canada, again, is another example of the globalism that I'm talking about. And it's going against the grain. That MAGA is an irresistible force. Globalism is a movable object. Canada has to get on the right side of MAGA if we're going to win in this game. And I think the more our politicians realize that, I think the more successful they're going to be. That's my 2 cents. But I want to thank you guys for having me on. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
And
it's about time we finally had you.
Yeah. Appreciate you hopping on, Leighton.
Okay,
and,
take care.
And making some time. Yep. Have a great time.
Take care. Bye.
There you go, Leighton Gray. All right. So we got a whole bunch of things going on. We'll see if twos can actually hang out now for an extended period of time, because you've been bouncing in and out of this sucker for quite some time.
More times than Leighton did before in the
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, let's fire this thing up, shall we? Everybody wants the stupidity. Let's give them the stupidity, twos.
All right. Well, let's talk about Doge for a little bit. Doge is the best thing, as far as I'm concerned, that's been happening anywhere in the world in a while. And the Canadian Taxpayer Federation doesn't get enough credit for being our Doge before Doge was Doge. They're pre-Doge. They're going to be post-Doge, and they're Doge while it's Doging. So, for example, Franco Terrazzano, who we just had on the show, Global Affairs Canada doles out $350 million in corporate welfare to the private sector in Asia to develop low carbon and climate resilient initiatives and advance gender equality in the region. Results achieved, not applicable. And then they doled out $223 million, which is $1 million too much, to the private sector in South America for climate change mitigation and gender-responsive sustainable economic development. This is exactly the kind of bullshit do-nothing buzzwords that Doge is just hacking and slashing everywhere, all over the place. And I'm here for every minute of it. This guy, this was funny.
Anything you want, waste, and just get rid of it. You can't do that. Like in the Department of Defense, we do like lots and lots of online training every year that's totally not a waste of time and teaches us great skills that we use every day. And you should not use Doge to eliminate that. You just don't please don't do that.
Well, and then like Musk had like a ton of great clips this week. You know, the
just
10,000
from one interview, there was a ton of great clips.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to those in a sec. We're gonna get to those in a sec. Here first. So Reuters received far more money than this from U.S. government organizations. Leak. Looks like radical left Reuters was paid $9 million by Department of Defense to study large-scale social deception. Reuters. Now, if that name's familiar, it's because it's the company that owns the Globe and Mail. So they're getting paid millions of dollars by the U.S. to have bullshit, floofy things and to further the bullshit, floofy agenda. Aimco. Here's Globe and Mail. I guess I'm a hypocrite. Aimco closes offices in New York and Singapore. The Alberta Investment Management Corporation, who Stephen Harper is making great again. We talked about how they just laid off 19 people. They closed 2 offices. What the hell does the Alberta Investment Company need offices in New York and Singapore for? I'm not exactly sure. But here, check this out.
The most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, whoa, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955.
Now it goes on just detailing the silliness. So
they're
when retiring people,
they take their retirement documents down into a mine too. I'm like,
and that's part of the process. Like every time you think our government is fucked, something like this happens. You're like, well, I don't know. Maybe we don't have it so bad. But then our government does something else. You're like, okay, well, now they're tied. Now they're tied again. Yeah, but this one-upsmanship of idiot bureaucracy. Like you said, basically, if the elevator shaft goes down for maintenance, they can't fire anybody in the government.
They can't process retirements. Is the way I understood it.
Which is a nice way of
the amount they can do it is the speed of the elevator. So the speed of the elevator says 10,000 people a month can retire because that's the amount of.
Why not just dig a little chute beside it and just drop the paperwork down? You could have somebody who just stays on the bottom of the elevator.
You imagine Elon Musk? He's taking rockets into space, and he's like, why are we doing this?
I'm sorry. It's got to go to a limestone mine. Like there's a cobalt mine that's a little bit closer. Can we move everything there instead? Like literally anything you do in this situation is better than what they currently have.
Then he had the 150-year-olds collecting Social Security. That
because the examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay.
They're trying to clean up waste in the U.S. government, and they're finding 150-year-old people who are collecting old age pensions.
Correct.
And then this one's good.
Correct the statements. It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there. Yeah. And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. So, I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms when you think about it.
So, yeah, the legacy media is fact checking him because he said
I
they were
want somebody to
sending them
show me how
Hamas.
much $50 million worth of condoms is. Right? Like,
Well, for me, that's like 4.
I walked right into that one. All right.
Okay, and this is more Doge. One of the other young Doge guys, not Big Balls, that's a whole nother thing we're not even going to get into this week, has a Substack where you could pay $1,000 a month or $10K a year and there's nothing on it. He knew that journos trying to dig up dirt on him would pay to see if there's anything bad there, and it's super funny that he's made money off people trying to get dirt on him. That's exactly it. Now, here's the Thomas Sowell thing that I wanted to get into before. So everybody's losing their minds about these tariffs and the free trade and trade deficits and what's good and what's bad. Here is from the smartest man living. And the guy interviewing him, who's also pretty good, but not the smartest guy living.
What should people really worry about the balance of trade?
Somewhat less than you worry about being struck by lightning.
Okay, here's a statistic I heard just the other day. Here's how many cars Korea sells in the United States every year. 500,000. Here's how many cars we sell in Korea every year. 5,000. Why shouldn't we be worried about that imbalance?
I'm not sure why we should. Obviously, if the Americans were Americans forced at gunpoint to buy these cars from Korea?
And so, yeah, basically, it's just the consumers buying what they want. And who really cares one way or the other what country it comes from? It's the consumers getting what they want at the end of the day. So, yeah, and then here's that tweet that Leighton Gray was talking about. Russia should not be welcomed back into the G7. Forward, well, here's a whole bunch of stuff about the fentanyl czar. Everything's a little bit out of whack with me right now because I had everything lined up, all the guests, and then the internet kept screwing things up. But I want to point this out. Recording reveals Doug Ford called for return of death penalty in campaign speech. Send him right to Sparky. Where's this guy been for the past 7 years? Honestly, and the funny thing is the Toronto Star is talking about how shocked and appalled this lawyer who refused to be named, who heard it live, was. And they're not actually talking to any, like, go out and talk to somebody on the street who's looking at,
Go talk to somebody who's had their house broken into and see what their thoughts are.
Yeah. A man from Edmonton linked to a firearm found in a 2022 search has been sentenced in the U.S. to 82 months in prison and fined $30,000 for illegally purchasing handguns and smuggling them into Canada. All I'm saying is that you would probably get a better feel for the heartbeat of the country right now if you went and talked to people who weren't some lawyer who happened to be at the meeting who refused to be named publicly for fear of recrimination for his career. Go ask somebody on the street and they'd be like, you could start by zapping 3 of those crackheads over there who were literally smoking crack behind us while you're interviewing me.
Since you're so all over the place, do you got the Mark Carney video? Because Leighton brought it up. We should literally let people hear Mark Carney talk about promises to abuse the emergency powers of the federal government and to build green energy projects and to take on the Americans. That would probably be, I would say, beneficial for people to hear.
Okay, give me just a sec here. I think it's somewhere right around here. No, I don't got it, but here's the shoes. Here's the shoes worth over $2,000. But yeah, so he just said that he was going to institute emergency powers. He was going to invoke the Emergency Act to bring in green energy stuff.
Yeah, he was in Kelowna when he said it as well, right? Mark Carney promises to abuse the emergency powers of the federal government to build green energy projects and to take on the Americans. Enjoy your tariff lockdowns, everyone. That was Sheila Gunn Reid who said it, who tweeted the video and everything else.
Yep.
And then there was this too as well from CTV News. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau congratulated Syria's interim president, despite him leading a group Canada still designates as a terrorist organization.
Yep. And do you remember what he said when Italy voted in that supposedly far right leader, Giorgia Meloni? Do you remember what he said that time?
I don't know. What did he say last
Nothing.
time?
Nothing.
Well, of course
he didn't say a damn thing about it.
He doesn't want a strong woman leading a nation. You kidding me?
Nope. He'd rather have a fucking terrorist running a country. All right. Here. I just going to hit a few of these rapid fire. Stephen Gayballs pulls pin on $11 billion Kitimat refinery project backed by Stockwell Day. And then, that's, whatever. I'll skip that. Here's Premier Francois Legault saying any changes to Quebec's dairy cartel are not negotiable. All right. And then here a quick little follow-up. Dairy farming in Canada. We talk about the dairy cartel. Here's a little bit of perspective. Newfoundland has 23 farms. Prince Edward Island, 160, 195 in Nova Scotia, 162 in New Brunswick, a few in the hundreds over here on the whole rest of it. Quebec, 4,250 farms of 9,256. Half the fucking milk in this country comes from this protectionist, freeloader bullshit province. Okay? And they're saying, no, we're not willing to re-examine this in view of the threats we're experiencing. And then you've got Stephen Quinn, CBC Radio morning host. Have we decided that we're taking back the Canadian flag from the convoy types? Is it okay to fly a Canadian flag again without being mistaken for,
one of those guys?
Those guys. Here's the thing. This whole Go Canada thing, it lasted. The ink wasn't even dry on the pro Canada articles before you already had Ontario and fucking Quebec saying we're going to do what we want to do. And it was it even a month ago that Danielle Smith was catching all this hell for going down to the States and meeting with the people in the US for saying that she wants to protect Alberta's interests. And she was demonized in damn near every newspaper across this fucking sad excuse for a country. And now you've got literally premiers, party leaders all over the map saying the exact same thing, and they're getting a free pass. Or, as they say in fucking Quebec, just a pass, because everything's fucking free there.
Mail delivery suspended in parts of Ontario and Quebec today. Well, not today. Due to Winter Storm Canada Post, the Crown Corporation said it issued a red delivery service alert, dudes.
Yeah, so the same people who gave us a puff piece in Global about how they need to overcome climate change and how it's affecting the weather and how it's doing such terrible things to them, but they still overcome it. And that's why they deserve a raise, is because they're still just fierce in terms of everything that Mother Nature's dying death throes are throwing at them because we're using too many fossil fuels. These same people are like, fuck it. We're going to drop the mail off when it's not so snowy out.
BC rebate. Finance Minister Brenda Bailey summoned reporters to her office at the legislature on Thursday for an update on the provincial budget she'll be presenting next month. The biggest news was the fate of the grocery rebate, $1,000 per family, $500 for individuals. That was the centerpiece of the NDP's platform in the provincial election. Newsflash twos, it ain't happening.
Yeah, so they won that election by this much. And part of their election platform was that they're going to give everybody $1,000. Which is an interesting, they said it's going to be for groceries. But the crux of it is vote for us and we'll give you $1,000. And then they get in and they say, psych. And so, look, I get the fact that lots of people who vote NDP are stupid. But for everybody else, take this as an object lesson. Don't listen to what the politicians tell you. Go by what they do.
Alberta police helped break up alleged Canada-wide sex trafficking ring operating over a decade. 3 Montreal men identified during an Edmonton police investigation have been charged with running a cross-Canada sex trafficking ring that investigators say has been active for more than a decade. The The group was active in
10
Edmonton,
years.
Calgary, Lloydminster, Red Deer,
Yeah.
Grand Prairie, Fort Mac, Cold Lake, Vancouver, Estevan, Saskatchewan, police said. Yeah.
So they
and
basically just hit all the oil towns in Vancouver.
and there's one of them. So there
Yeah.
you go. That's
the only picture that was released.
That's the only picture that was released. All 31 years old. Anyways, that's a pretty dark story.
Well, that
rats.
means that they started it when they were 21. Like, imagine where you were at when you were 21. Like, you know what? I think I'm gonna beat dogs and pimp hoes.
Rats are still fleeing the ship too. Justice Minister Arif Virani says he won't be running in the coming federal election. And then I butchered this lady's name for way too long. Okay, I want to pull it up. I think I got it right here. Yeah, I do. Okay, we're gonna. Do you know how to pronounce her name?
Mary.
Mary. How do you pronounce her last name?
Carefully. Why don't you try?
Ing. Mary Ing.
God
Marion.
damn it. You finally got one right. Congratulations.
I finally got one right, folks, because I'm like, how do I pronounce this name? So I looked, I'm like, her name is Mary Ing. Really? Okay. Well, she's
so
she's
you may
decided to flee
remember
the ship as
her
well.
from being found guilty of the Conflict of Interest Act for giving Amanda Alvaro tens of thousands of dollars.
Heist of the week. More than 100 pallets of olive oil worth over $1 million was stolen in Montreal, according to police. What did they get? Like, who? I mean, great thought. But my question to you is, how are you gonna move $1 million worth of olive oil? Have they thought that through?
Well, Sean, you're going to move all of it at once. All of it. I tell you what, it's going to be really hard to catch some, like, these are some slippery criminals, Sean.
I know. They're literally on a video camera. Oh boy.
But,
I think it's straight up olive oil. I'm like, wow, actually, I would never. Okay, fair. That's okay. $1 million. But then I'm like, but how are you going to offload $1 million worth of olive oil? Like,
have you seen how expensive? Like, well, it's 100 pallets, right? So I don't know. There's a few truckloads there.
Sure.
And it's not going to be super, but it's $1 million worth. So, you know what? Even if you got to sit on it for a little while, it's not like it's got blockchain in it. You're going to be able to get rid of it at mom and pop convenience stores because you're going to be like, hey, this pallet of olive oil fell off the back of the truck. You want to buy it for like a few $100, and then they'll sell it for a few thousand and make some money. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be shit like that, right?
Sure. London Drugs says privacy law bar it from sharing security videos of violent crimes. The privacy commissioner takes a very dim view of releasing surveillance to the public. Clint Malman told Global News in an interview at the chain's Woodward's location on January 30th. I think if the public was to see what our staff deal was on a daily basis, they would be horrified and demand even more change faster than what they are now. You don't think?
Yeah. So you're not allowed in BC to put up pictures or video footage of shoplifters because it invades their privacy rights. Well, first off, you know what? I would just be like, look, I'm going to put up this video. And if this is you in the video and you're mad about your rights of privacy being infringed upon, could you please come forward and make those concerns known? You just be like, look, I will have this video up until somebody reaches out to me and says, that's me in the video. Can you please take it down?
It's just ridiculous. We are now paying the Governor General $378,000 a year to do, I don't know, what are we paying her again for?
Well, see, here's the thing. This is kind of a funny tweet by JJ McCullough. He says, I see we're now paying the Governor General $378,000 a year to do literally nothing. That's close to the truth. I would say that it would be more accurate for us to say that we are now paying the Governor General $378,000 a year to do figuratively nothing.
New coal power plant projects in China hit the highest level in nearly 10 years. China's power industry began construction on nearly 100 gigawatts of new coal plant capacity last year, and that is the most in nearly a decade.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's the same shit we've been saying for years, is that we're a drop in the bucket, right? Like, Why would you spend all this time and effort trying to purify the nearly clean water on the top when the bucket is half full of fucking sludge? You would take the sludge out first.
Side note on this is Tim Kasprick, Freedom of Information. He was on the podcast last week. He was trying to find out how much these mini modular nuclear reactors were going to cost Saskatchewan. The numbers come back at $5 billion per one.
For one?
$5 billion.
Oh, okay. Just get a farmer in there to take a look at it, and you'd be like, this is stupid. You don't need this. This is all wrong. You're going to have to retrofit it. Like, when it comes to these quotes and all these things that government put together, and they're like, oh, we're going to build this and we're going to build this. Look at Sundance Construction, how she's talked about how they're saying, oh, well, you need to build this water treatment plant this certain way and it doesn't work, and this certain way and it doesn't work. And she's like, I could build one that works for a lot fucking less. And I bet you could take somebody who isn't even a nuclear physicist, just somebody who's good at building things and working with their hands and maybe welding shit together to get that last field off before winter. You get those people in there, that thing goes down to a few $100 million.
I'm off. Two. Sorry, not one. Two. They're going to build two of these, and it would cost $5 billion.
Oh, well, that's so much better.
So much better. I'm feeling very.
Climate change is turning Valentine's Day bitter for chocolate.
Happy
lovers.
Valentine's Day, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great day. Hey, happy Valentine's Day, twos.
Happy Valentine's Day, Sean. Everybody out there, I hope you
climate
find
change is
somebody
ruining
who loves
though.
you. I hope you find somebody who loves you as much as Ottawa has been in love with Canada for the past 4.5 days.
Climate change is ruining it, though. The world is falling apart. Carbon tax the crap out of everyone, including anyone who buys anything to do with Valentine's Day. Just let's take away all the fun, climate change, ruining the world, and including Valentine's Day.
All right. Republican.
You had mentioned trying to engage more women in manufacturing. I'm just wondering if just the name manufacturing sounds like a guy.
It has the word man in.
How is this possible? This is
did the people kind, Sean. She did the people kind.
If you go back to Brian Lilley talking, folks, he's like, we have no.
Well, what did he say? I missed it.
He's like, I have more connections to the MAGA group than our current government. I'm like, that's because that's what our government sounds like right there. Manufacturing has man in it. We can't. This is sexist. It's like, yeah, we don't want to talk to you. We're not going to talk to you. So, like, what do we? We have the liberal. We sent Notley down to talk to these people, folks. We expect that they're going to want to talk to
Sean.
us.
Terry Glavin, who generally I've got some respect for, but god damn it, he just went over a cliff the past week. He's talking about equalization in Alberta, and he says, then by all means leave, but you can only leave with what you brought to Confederation, which was nothing, unlike Quebec, BC, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, PEI. Alberta was invented by a Liberal Prime Minister in 1905. Ottawa gave you the oil in the 1930s. Now, here's a quick little community notes, unofficial.
Terry Glavin, for everyone, is a journalist. He's a National Post columnist, right? So just so we place this guy.
In 1892, the site of Western Canada's first producing oil well in Waterton Lakes National Park was named Oil City. Although the site was named in 1892, it wasn't until 1901 that extensive extraction took place. All right, so there's 1892, which is before Alberta was part of Canada. It's before Saskatchewan was part of Canada.
It's just a terrible take, Tooz. It's just an absolutely terrible take.
And just here's the thing: like when you talk about Alberta having all the oil, Alberta doesn't have all the oil. Alberta has all the people who want to work hard to get the oil out. The first well dug in North America was just outside of Sarnia, Ontario. When people landed in New Brunswick, they would literally poke sticks in the ground. This is all in this article on the history of oil in North America. where they would literally put sticks in the ground and then they could burn the gas coming out of it because the gas was natural gas. They actually had natural gas seeping out of the damn ground. This is how it went back then. It's not that the oil magically stopped the Alberta border. Hell, even when they look at this basin, so they say that, okay, the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin happens to be where lots of the oil is in Canada. You look at this map, sure, it's Alberta, it's a lot of Saskatchewan, a lot of Manitoba, and even gets into Ontario. And that's where a bunch of it is. But all around there's still more of it too. It's not that it isn't there. It's just that there's people there haven't done a damn thing about it. Why? Because they get free money from the people who do.
There you go. Willis Carnegie. Glavin consistently has awful takes. Fair enough. Moving on. Kirk Lubemoff. He put out Calgary would be one of the most impacted cities by tariffs. So has Mayor Jody Gondek said anything about it? Mayor Jody Gondek hasn't done anything. Has she? Twos? Like, do we expect her to do anything? I do find it funny she put out a video and it had 0 views.
So, yeah. She's so
5
relevant.
days. Yes, she puts out a video. Nobody's watching.
Like, not even, like, literally, their comms team didn't even just check on the video and make sure that everything went up correctly. That's how little anybody in that area cares. Now, here's one. She deleted it, which is a damn shame because this is just classic liberal. So Hetty Fry, who's in her 80s and still somehow serving as a politician. I mean, why quit a good gig, right? She was talking about how she wanted Chrystia Freeland to become Canada's first female prime minister. And so Brian Passafume pointed out, and but somebody else in the comments put it even better with this. Hetty Madeline Fry is a Canadian politician and physician who is currently the longest-serving female of parliament, winning 10 consecutive elections in the constituency of Vancouver Centre, including the 1993 election where she defeated incumbent Prime Minister Kim Campbell. This is the woman who got into politics by unseating the first female Canadian Prime Minister. And she has forgotten about that so thoroughly that she wants Chrystia Freeland to be Canada's first female prime minister. What an absolute dumbass.
You remember seeing the video? Well, I'm speaking to the audience. The video of the two planes colliding. Here's a crazy thing. Vincent Neil of Motley Crue, the lead singer, his plane was the one that hit actors Vince Vaughn's plane. That's who, the two Vinces. That was in the Scottsdale airport.
That's their planes crashed into each other.
Somebody died in that too.
Yeah, one of the pilots. Vince's girlfriend was on the flight. And then the pilots. Now this one's interesting. So CBC, as you know, is CBC. White nationalist books planted in little free libraries across Ottawa. Area councillor calls incident disturbing. Here's the lady who found them and brought it to everybody's attention.
And
this
works
lady,
for the government.
If you're listening, looks exactly how you'd expect. Now, the weird thing is, you go through this entire article, and it goes on for quite some time. Like, we're still going through this article. I'm scrolling through it. The weirdest part about this is that the book is not ever named.
Correct.
I don't even know what book this is. I can't even decide if they're being honest or factual about this, because they could say it's CBC Exposed by Brian Lilley, and that's the book. Although they did say it was an American author. But here's the thing: is you can't look at it and say, "Hey, is this actually legit?" You know, are they just making a mountain out of a molehill? And the fact that they're
making a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah. Yeah. Which also, by the way, I wanted to ask him, but we got sidetracked here. What's the story with this chick? Did he know her? Like is that his girlfriend or something?
This has been 145 in a nutshell. Yeah, I don't know. Whitby, she should have been not that lady. The lady complaining should have been this lady. Should have been. I assume this is the lady. Whitby woman wants to refund after giving psychic over $50,000 to help her fall in love. She was promised that she could help her start a romantic relationship with a man from her gym.
Well, I'm not saying that the psychic is legitimate, because here's the thing: is that psychic obviously saw this thing coming from a mile away.
Oh man!
Imagine giving $50,000 to a tarot card reader.
Yes. Regina's German club has received multiple threats after their venue was booked by the Buffalo Party. Hey, Buffalo Party, keep it down over there. It seems you're causing a little bit of mayhem in Regina.
Yeah, like this is insane. What is the Buffalo Party? Do they have a single point that you would say, okay, well, you know what? This is, even in the crazy leftist cancel everything mindset, where you'd be like, hey, you know what? We don't take kindly to their types around here. Like, what exactly is it about the Buffalo Party that has people so upset?
I'm gonna wait for a comment to come in that actually tells us, because I'm like,
did John Romick call this in?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, who cares? Canada Revenue Agency to tax $2.5 billion small business carbon tax rebate, despite decision by the Department of Finance. So just so everybody understands how this works, the carbon tax gets layered upon layered upon layered, and then the businesses, small businesses apply, and they get a rebate of the carbon tax that they paid for everything. When you heat your store and you pay more in carbon tax than you do in actual fuel consumption, and it's set to go up by 20%, 40%, 60%, something like that here in a month or 6 weeks, you get that, or some of it anyway, as a rebate. And so the government is taxing us, giving some of the tax money back, but charging income on the tax rebate.
You can't make it up. A guy went to 32 Tim Hortonses. That didn't sound right. Went to 932 Tim.
Order the same thing every single time, and we're going to see how many orders are wrong.
A small black coffee. Yeah. And a chocolate chip muffin. Can I get a small black coffee and a chocolate chip muffin, please? Hi, can I get a small black coffee and a...
So that's what he does all the way along.
Between the hours.
And so when he goes there off peak time,
this is like the guy listened, and this is him and Twos are on the same wavelength.
Off peak time, they got it right 71.9% of the time. Off peak time, they get it right 71.9%, and then, they screwed it up 71.9% in peak time, but they got it right in off peak time by like 50%. Here you go. Like this is exactly what we're talking about. Like you hire somebody and their job.
You should start working the Tim Hortons drive-thru.
Not interested. Their job. You hire somebody at Tim Hortons. You're like, hey, we want you to run the drive-thru. Okay, well, what's that task going to entail? Well, you need to speak English to the people who come through it. And you're going to hire somebody who is fresh off the plane. Temporary foreign worker. And like things are so bad in Tim Hortons now with their newfound patriotism. We had this in another thing we didn't get to, but they're actually going to try and source Canadian ingredients because of their newfound patriotism. Tim Hortons, who at one point was like the unofficial symbol of Canada, is now going to try get back to having Canadian ingredients. How about if you really care about Canada? Just crazy pitch. Hear me out on this, Tim Hortons. If you really care about Canada, why don't you hire a few people who fucking work here and live here?
Probably because Twos doesn't want the job. Well, en route to the Super Bowl, President Trump signs proclamation officially renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. America.
Yeah. He made the Gulf great again, I guess.
That's right. Buffy St. Marie's Order of Can. Oh, you want to show the video? Do you want to show the video?
Well, no, I'm not going to show the video. I'm going to show you guys the Google Earth if it loads up. Here we go. All right. So here it is. Now, I asked Grok about this, and then I didn't like the answer, and so then I also asked ChatGPT about it, and I got basically the same answer.
Okay.
But here's the thing: is that Mexico it doesn't quite look like it, but more of this coastline is Mexico because of the dip down. If you actually measure it, because I'm like, there's no way that all that up here is less than that down here, but it's at.
Twos, you're cutting out. I can't hear a bloody word you're saying.
Here.
I don't know. You're super delayed.
Am I back?
Hello? Is this thing on? 145. I can't hear anything.
Pull the pin. Let's get to happy news.
Oh my goodness. Folks, I can hear you now. You're delayed.
Okay.
At the end of the day, Trump.
We talked about that woman who lost. We talked. Okay, we're just gonna rapid fire this. The woman who lost 50 pounds since Trump got inaugurated. Turns out she's on Ozempic. Buffy St. Marie, as you were trying to say,
Ozempic was on the sponsor of Sportsnet's panel.
Yep.
I'm like, what?
Yep. Oh, what? I didn't see it on panel. I saw a commercial for it. Yeah.
It was right on their Sportsnet's desk. Whatever. Not in the rink. Not the one on the actual Sportsnet desk, but the one inside the rink at the Four Nations Cup. Buffy, yeah. Anyways, it stood out to me. It was my point.
Yeah,
Buffy St. Marie's Order of Canada terminated by Governor General. See, what is going on here? Can't take this anymore. Mashup 145. Carry on.
Okay.
Carry on.
Read the entire first sentence and then do the happy news. Do the happy news, Sean.
Can I talk? Okay, fine. Buffy St. Marie's Order of Canada terminated by Governor General. No reason was given, but the termination comes after a 2023 CBC investigation raised serious doubts about the singer's claims to Indigenous identity. And Trump for the win here. Trump rules out deporting Prince Harry. He said he's got enough problems with his wife. Here is the happy news. A Calgary man's dog is being called a home invasion hero as he courageously stayed beside his owner's side during a brutal armed invasion, home invasion. Bruce Wallers was shot each leg, while his best friend Zeus was shot in the head. Fortunately, they both survived. The dog was shot in the head too.
Yeah,
oh, man, Canada, 2025.
All right, community notes, my friend.
Well, I tell you what, I'd sent this to twos. Okay. Here's a listener. I want to get everybody's thoughts on this, okay? I want to say I find you and twos hilarious, but I have a challenge for him. I'll donate $50 a week until December 31st to either the podcast studio or to a charity of our choice. If twos no longer takes the Lord, I think of your choice. I think he's meaning our choice. I think he's talking about us. If twos doesn't take the Lord's name in vain on the episode of the Mashup in any form, I'm the judge. I get to be the judge on this. And
did I do it
anytime
today?
he says it, it goes back down to 0. And he goes, but if he does it in consecutive episodes, it grows. So it'd be $50 this week because I don't think he took the Lord's name in vain this time, and it would go up and up and up. And I'm like, I think it's great. Twos is like, I don't know. What do you think, audience? What do you think? I'm kind of curious. Twos, you're all froze up. No, maybe you're there. Are you there? I don't know. I think you're there.
Am I froze up?
You're delayed.
I don't know. Okay. I think it's a fun idea. Yeah, I'm all for it. You were suggesting maybe I should get some of that for my efforts, and I just said, well, I mean, if it's going to go to me, I'm going to care a lot less than if it's to help out with the studio or to help out with a charity, and that was my stance on it.
Can you imagine on the legacy wall it says twos 222 minutes?
Didn't swear.
No Lord's name. Eh? Leanne Taylor says yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna. I'll take Jim Jones's name in vain and instead a little bit here and there maybe.
You can take Jim Jones's name instead.
Okay. Big Jack Classic, Buffalo Lake this weekend. It's ice fishing.
Yes. Cornerstone Forum May 10th. You got injection of truth in March. You have National Citizens Inquiry in March. You have a whole bunch of things coming up. I don't know. I'm looking at twos. Yeah. Don't agree. Twos is an individual. Oh, okay. All right, Jacqueline. Okay. F-bombs are apparently okay, though. Anyways, you keep commenting, folks. We'll read it after we go. I'm going to end the mashup 145. I'm discombobulated on this side. This has been an absolute train wreck of a mashup. I know that's what you all tune in for. But this week, exceptionally, is
but usually we've got reliable internet connections.
And usually, twos doesn't. See, I'm just slowly taking them out. Folks, thanks for being in here and doing this. Tune in. Mashup 146 next week. We're always here, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tell a friend, share away. Thanks for tuning in. We will catch up to all you fine folks next week. Till then.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, popping, locking, salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map, stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Welcome to the mashup. Welcome to the